Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to check out a video from the group of Kaiju Center or Goju Center or however it's pronounced. We're going to check out the Indominus Rex vs Skullcrawler video of their in-depth battle analysis series. Let's hop on in and see just what these guys can do with this artificial dinosaur and this Titan. Or Titan enemy, whatever the hell it is.
In the Jurassic World franchise, no other dinosaur has inflicted devastating carnage on an entire ecosystem like the Indominus Rex. The Monsterverse spits back with creatures whose mere existence is to kill, eat, and repeat. The Skullcrawlers. So what would happen if a fully grown Indominus Rex walks into a Skullcrawler? Will the Skullcrawler be yet another fatality, or will the Indominus Rex be another monster's lunch? In this battle, we will compare these two creatures toe-to-toe, and determine who will walk out of this battle alive. We will compare these creatures' strength, weapons, violent behaviors, and more to determine which one of these monsters will live to kill another day. This is villain versus villain, psycho versus psycho.
Yeah.
So make sure you hang tight till the end as we put these two man-eaters to the test to determine
Artificial monster versus nature's destruction.
who is the ultimate island terror. We know you are watching this video because you love battles. But take a moment and imagine a place where you could fight against millions of real players in the arena. Well, now you have an opportunity to do just that, because it's time to raid.
Okay, we're back. All I did was just skip the sponsor for the video. But hey, to see what the sponsor was, you can go to the link in the description and go straight to the original video. Looks like we got an ad coming up though, so we're about to cut again. So, okay, sorry about that. That was probably a little glitchy. To just explain what happened, we went over the sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends, and blah blah blah. Now we're gonna get into it. We had another ad pretty much immediately after that. Oh man, that's probably gonna look a little glitchy. Sorry.
Take a small moment to understand their builds. In the 2015 film Jurassic World, the Indominus Rex was not fully grown. This hybrid was designed to be more fierce, stronger, and larger than the T-Rex. Fully grown, she would have reached up to 51 feet in length, a whopping 20.6 feet in height, and weighed somewhere around 8 tons. In addition to these measurements, it's imperative to note that this dinosaur's genetic pool included many other dinosaurs and animals, such as the Velociraptor, the Giga, Majungasaurus, Viavenator, Deinosuchus, Therizinosaurus, cuttlefish, frogs, and even pit vipers.
Jeez.
We will find out why these traits are important throughout this video. The Skullcrawler, or also known as Cranium Reptant, are strange two-legged creatures mostly known for their infamous skull pattern on their heads. The maximum size of these animals can be well over 200 feet long, but in the film Kong Skull Island, we were introduced to a smaller and more nimble version of these skull crawlers. We will be using this juvenile specimen to face a fully grown Indominus Rex, as it would be brutally unfair to face an Indominus against something like this.
Yeah. An alpha Skullcrawler.
Now let's get to the analysis platform. Resistance. One of the most well-known attributes of the Indominus Rex was its layer of thick hide equipped with spiny osteoderms. This layer was able to withstand different types of damage, such as shotgun fire, M134 minigun bullets, several T-Rex bites and raptor slashes, and a blast from an AT-4 rocket launcher. This dinosaur's resistance goes beyond its skin. The impact of an AT-4 launcher was strong enough to knock the Indominus down. The shock, however, was not strong enough to stun or damage any internal organs, allowing the Indominus to prolong the pursuit. In addition to that, this animal's skeletal build was extremely strong as well. An example of this is how it manages to soak an ankylosaur tail strike to the head and continue fighting. The Skullcrawler, on the other hand, was also durable as well, but not in the way the Indominus is resistant. Going back to Kong Skull Island, this animal's skin is actually not thick at all, as it was easily cut by an individual holding a sword. This animal is also vulnerable to explosions or shrapnel, but there won't be any of that in this battle. What will show up are tons of clawing and biting. But it just so happens that this creature does have an extremely resistant part of its body.
The head.
Its skull. These animals can absorb impact from rocks, trees, and even horned skulls. The most important thing to note about the skullcrawler's resistance is that although its body can still get injured, the only real way to kill a skullcrawler is by disembowelment. No matter where a skullcrawler is injured, this thing will continue on fighting.
Meaning, if you want to kill a skullcrawler, you're either going to cut it down like that, like you're unzipping a jacket, or somehow damaging the head. And if you can do either without the Kong, yeah, you're pretty badass.
The best example of this is how this skullcrawler had its throat slit and still kept fighting. So who takes the edge? On the one end, we have a dinosaur who will be difficult to pierce and with an extremely strong skeletal frame. On the other hand, we see a monster that will take damage, but with only one true corporal weakness, which puts their levels of resistance at equilibrium for this battle. Intelligence. You might recall that the Indominus is made out of a very diverse gene pool. Raptor DNA makes itself present in this attribute, as we see the Indominus Rex outwit and even strategize assaults against humans. This animal could also retain long-term memories in detail, use camouflage to its advantage, and try to outwit humans into instigating her own escape from her enclosure. This animal knows what it's doing, and it likes to kill for fun. Animals that show extremely cruel behavior, such as killing for sport, tend to be highly intelligent beings. Take lions and orcas, for example. In addition to that, this dinosaur is an extremely quick learner. In Jurassic World, this dinosaur came up with a strategy to defeat an ankylosaur by flipping it, while being the very first time encountering this animal. Skullcrawlers are also intelligent and social creatures that live in caverns and attack larger animals using swarm tactics. This is how they laid waste to the entire Kong species many years back, before the events of Kong Skull Island. More mature skullcrawlers will develop a keen sense of danger and suspicion, determining whether something is a threat. Take, for example, the instance of when Earl Cole tried to sacrifice himself by blowing up the skullcrawler. After this skullcrawler determined that this particular human was not safe to eat, this attribute, however, is reserved for the more mature and experienced skullcrawlers. Since these animals are basically killing and eating all the time, their aggressive instincts might sometimes take over in place of basic reasoning. Therefore, this malfunction ends up giving the edge to the Indominus Rex when it comes to battle intelligence. Overall strength. Let's go back to this dinosaur's gene composition. We see that the most powerful contributor when it comes to physical strength is most likely the Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is proven in the film, as we saw both the Indominus and the Rex ragdoll each other against buildings. Unlike the T-Rex, however, the Indominus's overall strength is distributed differently. For the Indominus, most of the strength exertion happens in the mandibles, neck, forearms, and legs. These were strong enough to grab a Rex and slam it on its side. But will this strength distribution be useful against a skullcrawler? Its opponent's anatomical build makes it very difficult to knock down or simply push around thanks to its weight, wider stance, and third limb, the tail. Its higher muscle density suggests this animal is perhaps stronger than the Indominus Rex in key areas. More specifically, its extremely strong and prehensile tail. A limb so strong that it can literally pick up an opponent and fling it at a great distance, or be used for constriction. Both of these animals are strong, but the skullcrawler has strength allocation where it matters, and where it can be used most effectively. Knowing this, the edge goes to the skullcrawler for overall strength. Agility. When it comes to agility, the Indominus Rex was certainly more agile than any other super theropod in the Jurassic World franchise. This dinosaur had Raptor and Giganotosaurus DNA in its genetic composition. Both of these dinosaurs' mobility traits seem to have migrated to its current attributes, which are mostly reflected by its longer set of limbs and lighter build. So yes, for a big dinosaur, the Indominus was pretty agile. But compared to the skullcrawler, that's another story. It does not take an anatomical expert to realize that this monster could move in ways that no other dinosaur could. Apart from being a third limb, this tail allowed the skullcrawler to literally steer itself to make extremely sharp turns and use these for attack. The most perfect example of this can be taken from this scene. Observe how the Skullcrawler makes an instant 180-degree turn in less than a second while slamming its tail on the ground.
I guess when I was watching the movie, I never saw that scene because it was just going so fast and so much action. I never saw it do just a whole...
This animal's serpentine build allows it to move in ways most other animals can't. By comparing these two animals' movements side by side, we see that the Indominus moves around in a more lumbering fashion compared to the Skullcrawler. Seeing this visual evidence, it's clear that the edge for battle agility goes to the Skullcrawler.
Okay, the Skullcrawler.
But will this make any difference in terms of speed?
Oh, one moment, and
so I've got my...
And we're back.
Overall speed. In an enclosure, the Indominus' speed is clocked at 30 miles per hour. Keep in mind that this metric is when the Indominus measures a mere 40 feet long. Our fully grown Indominus now measures 50 feet long and weighs more, meaning that this larger animal is most likely slower, reaching speeds of up to 25 miles per hour. This still gives enough momentum to ram and knock other dinosaurs off their feet, which could possibly aid the Indominus in hitting the Skullcrawler on a vulnerable area. A Skullcrawler of this size could move its legs as fast as the Indominus Rex, but the difference is the way they make strides. This monster's leg range of motion allows it to cover more ground in less time using the same amount of strides. Juveniles are even faster. Remember that these younglings exist to eat, so fast locomotion to chase down prey is imperative. In short bursts of speed, however, this animal's leg anatomy allows it to literally catapult itself forward, almost airborne, covering even more distance in a split second. This ability to thrust itself forward at very high speeds gives the Skullcrawler the edge once again in overall speed. Before we get into how they will tear each other apart, we need to cover the terrain adaptability of these two monsters. Terrain adaptability.
All right, bring it on.
Being compatible with the battle terrain is important when fighting a Skullcrawler. This particular dinosaur has been seen fighting it out with other dinosaurs in close quarters, such as dense jungles and other areas filled with obstacles, and did okay. But what really sets this animal apart is its ability to camouflage. Cuttlefish DNA allows this dinosaur to blend with its surroundings, whether it's jungle or other darker ambience. The Skullcrawler is also well adapted to fight in many terrains, including water. Yes, you heard that right. In the novelization of Kong Skull Island, Skullcrawlers have hidden gills, which could technically allow these to swim or walk underwater and invade the populated mainland. In this battle, however, the edge will go to whoever can detect the opponent first. Given that the Indominus Rex also has thermal vision, thanks to the Viper DNA, the Skullcrawler will always be on the Indominus Rex's scope of vision. The Skullcrawler doesn't necessarily have thermal vision, but does have heat-seeking sensors in its empty eye sockets. But because the Indominus can camouflage at will, this advantage could give the Indominus a few more moments of cover. This ability to seamlessly blend with its surroundings gives the Indominus the edge for terrain adaptability.
Okay, well now the
bite effectiveness. Now let's get into some real damage. The Indominus Rex and the Skullcrawler have very, very different types of skull anatomy. You will notice that the Indominus's teeth are exposed like that of a crocodile, courtesy of the Deinosuchus DNA. This animal had around 74 teeth that varied in size, but were extremely strong and durable. These teeth were mounted on mandibles that could open more than 90 degrees thanks to Viper DNA and bite down with the force similar to that of a T-Rex. Its lower jaw or underbite allowed it to capture more surface area with each bite. How strong of a bite? Well, just take a look at how the Indominus Rex crushed a bulletproof gyrosphere. These spike-shaped teeth and wide-open jaws indicate that its bite had the purpose of gripping and piercing, and then proceeding to rip out a huge chunk of flesh. A Skullcrawler's cranium and bottom mandible is similar to that of a mosasaur, but their teeth are very different. Skullcrawler teeth are very straight and pointy, pointing backwards, that is. This means that if it clamps its teeth and the victim manages to escape the grip, it will leave behind skin and layers of flesh. The thicker and most deadly set of teeth are found in the middle back portion of the skull. In order for these to actually pierce the Indominus, the Skullcrawler must first land a good wholesome bite. But what about bite force? If we look at a cross-section between both skulls, we find that the surface area covered with teeth in this skull is much wider, almost evenly distributing pressure. In contrast, the Indorex's pointy teeth are the only surface in which the tremendous amount of force is pushed into the victim, giving it more piercing power. And given that the Indominus is harder to pierce than a Skullcrawler, the Indominus takes the edge when it comes to bite effectiveness.
Damn it.
Auxiliary weaponry.
3-3 now.
One of the most useful tools that the Indominus Rex possesses are those front limbs capable of delivering deep wounds. These 4 claws, including an opposable thumb, allow the Indominus to perform better offensive maneuvers than a traditional theropod would. The composition...
Why would they give a dinosaur thumbs? Forget it. Someone was probably like, hey, you know what this dinosaur needs? What? Thumbs. My God, you're a genius. Give this man a raise. He goes, no, put him in a damn insane asylum. Don't give thumbs to a dinosaur.
Of these claws are so strong that they could instantly pierce bulletproof glass and dig into concrete with seemingly little effort. This weapon was the main culprit that allowed the Indominus to bring down an entire herd of Apatosaurus and other large sauropods, something that even large theropods won't do by themselves. The Skullcrawler snaps back with a very long prehensile tail. As mentioned previously, this tail could also be used as a weapon, but also be used to keep an opponent in place or even toss them. Another weapon is its prehensile tongue. Although not as long as its tail, this tongue can be used to grab smaller limbs and pull them into its mouth, close to those bigger teeth. So which of these will inflict more damage? This is where durability comes into play once again. Remember that the Indominus Rex's corporal build can withstand being tossed around repeatedly and recover quite fast, whereas the Skullcrawler has little to no defense against deep cuts from the Indominus. Although the Skullcrawlers can technically withstand lots of surface trauma, the Indominus's claws end up causing more physical damage, giving the edge to the Indominus Rex. We are almost ready to reveal who will be the winner of this fight. Up next, the most brutal psychological attributes of these two monsters.
And we're back with the X Factor.
Being an animal that grew up alone and neglected by its captors only led it to become even more fearsome and a true monster. One of the most feared and outstanding abilities of the Indominus Rex is its keen ability to detect corporal weakness in other dinosaurs, especially for an animal that lived alone most of its life. When facing an Ankylosaurus for the first time, the Indominus flipped the Ankylosaurus not to reveal its underbelly, but to disable it from moving and deploying its tail again. This allowed the Indominus to crack the neck of the Ankylosaurus. The list goes on, attacking sauropods on the legs to bring them down fast, and flooring the T-Rex repeatedly are just some examples of how the Indominus learns fast, detects weaknesses, and uses its limbs to exploit them. We are now about to cover the most terrifying attribute found in Skullcrawlers. Monarch's cryptid profiles reveal that this animal is a hypervore, meaning that it has a hyperadrenalized metabolism, which puts it in a constant state of starvation. Yeah, this guy is always hungry. This animal is instinctively hardwired to stop at absolutely nothing when it comes to chasing down and killing its next potential meal. In the novelization of Godzilla vs. Kong, Ren Serizawa, the man behind testing Mechagodzilla against other test subjects, favored Skullcrawlers for this particular reason. Even if a Skullcrawler is subjugated and incapacitated, they still see a meal in front of them. This terrifying drive to eat and survive only means that no matter what type of damage this Skullcrawler takes, this guy will fight to the absolute end. Retreat and surrender is unknown to their kind. We are now ready to reveal who will win in a fight between these two monsters. The Indominus Rex, with its wide selection of gene contributors, wins.
Now, I know it may not seem like it, but I'm still betting on the Skullcrawler to win this. Yes. Skullcrawler for the win. That's what I'm going for. Oh, Indominus Rex, I don't care.
The edge on intelligence, terrain compatibility, bite effectiveness, and auxiliary weaponry. The Skullcrawler, with its insatiable appetite to kill, wins the edge on overall strength, agility, and speed. Both of these monsters, however, are found to be equal in corporal resistance.
Yeah. Alright, here we go.
By compiling all of our data, we determined that the Indominus Rex would win an encounter between the two monsters. But barely. In a fight between the Indominus and a juvenile Skullcrawler, the real advantage that will save the Indominus is resistance. Although they both won the edge in this category, the Indominus's weapons were more effective against the Skullcrawlers in terms of piercing power, therefore giving the Indominus a quicker victory. The only weapons that the Skullcrawler possesses that would deal some serious physical damage to the Indominus would be its foot claws or its inner teeth. The Indominus isn't simply going to sit there and wait for the Skullcrawler to land the appropriate bite. In regards to the foot claws, the Skullcrawler has only 2 legs, which means that an attempt to claw at the Indominus would put itself in a position to be knocked off balance, making this attack obsolete. But what really made the Skullcrawler lose was the Indominus's ability to detect weaknesses and disable strengths. The Indominus is equipped with all the tools necessary to snap off a prehensile tongue, rip and tear, and disable its unprotected leg muscles, and finally access the hard-to-reach belly and disembowel this monster, using its plethora of extremely pointy teeth and weapons. Even if the Skullcrawler was capable of wrapping its tail around the Indominus and throwing her around, these impacts would not be damaging enough to inflict a fatal injury to the Indominus Rex. Even though the Skullcrawler fought to the end, its instinctual behavior once again took over and made it execute reckless maneuvers that a more disciplined Indominus could exploit. This was a close one. If this Skullcrawler was larger, then it would most likely win this encounter. Do you think the Indominus Rex would survive living on Skull Island? Do you think putting a single Skullcrawler in Isla Nublar or Sorna would be catastrophic? Let us know in the comments. For more fun kaiju and dinosaur fights, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And that is where we're going to end today's video. Just like he said, remember to hit that subscribe button. Remember to like and comment below as well. And in the description will be a link to the original video. Want all of y'all to have a good day. See ya!